to his career to help him navigate the stresses of his current plight.
For me, it's tough, but I think through the years of competing, that helped me to understand and just focus on what's the matter. I leave the matter in my lawyer's hand, you understand? I'm just trying to focus on my family and try not to think too much about it because it's a stressful situation.
Bolt also cleared the air on the parting between himself and longtime business manager Norman Peart.
It was simple. He was fired. That's pretty much all I have to say. My lawyer said, no, I shouldn't say a lot about that, but it was not amicable. He was fired.
The allegations have played out largely in the public domain, but Bolt says he has no more clarity than the average Joe. So how much of a hit was it?
I'm not broke, but it's definitely put a damper on me, you understand? It was for my future. Everybody knows I have 3 kids. Still looking out for my parents, and I still want to live very well.
Tragic Usain Bolt situation in which it came out, the reports came out yesterday, at least that's when I read it, that Usain Bolt put $12 million into, I believe it was an account, some type of a security account in Jamaica that was meant to, the $12 million was meant to give back to his country, to give back to his island, to give back to his people. The $12 million was just kind of put into an account, and he woke up one morning and that $12 million turned to $12,000. He got absolutely robbed, got taken to the bank by his very own people, that the people that he does it for. Absolutely tragic situation, especially for myself, being a Caribbean, raised in a Caribbean household. You know, huge part of the reason I'm in South Florida is because I knew the Caribbean athlete community was very vibrant, and I knew I wasn't gonna have to go very far before I found peers and people that related to me and related to the way I grew up. I mean, there's nothing worse than your own people doing you in, your own people taking you to the bank. It wasn't some racist white guy. It wasn't somebody from another ethnicity. It's his own fucking people, all right? That's hell. That's hell. Do you understand me? That's hell when you can't trust your own people. That's hell when it's your own people doing you in, all right? That's the tragedy in this situation. It truly is, all right? And even when Usain Bolt actually addressed the situation, you saw it in his face, you saw it in his demeanor, you saw it in his body language. He was hurt to his core. He's hurt to his core, and I can resonate with that feeling, all right? Now, here's my suggestion, because he's not the only or the first athlete that has been taken to the bank. He's not he probably will not be the last. This kind of shit goes on. And what I'm proposing to you all, I know a lot of people have been tuning into my reels lately. I've been getting all these notifications about how they've been hitting over 1,000 views and all that stuff, and I appreciate that. I truly appreciate that, especially for the people who don't know me, who's never actually met me face to face. Here's what I'm proposing, all right? We need to start requiring entrepreneurship classes to every single youth sports organization. Every single youth sports organization needs to be some sort of requirement. If you're listening to me right now and you're heavily involved with the youth sports world, you need to start requiring some type of entrepreneurship classes, something along the lines of entrepreneurship. Because whether you like it or not, when people start to develop and they start to dive heavily into the sports world, you have to do things that an entrepreneur will do. It's a requirement if you are going to survive. All right, you don't get to sit in the back and stay in the sports world. You don't get to sit in the back of class and just sort of get the piece of paper. If you're going to survive in the sports world, you got to be bold. You got to step up to the front. You got to show coach you want to play, and that's all entrepreneurship. You got to really be bold, and you got to learn how to sell. You got to learn how to take risks. You got to learn how to fail. You got to learn how to continue to move and keep grinding no matter what the circumstance is. All right, so I'm proposing that every single youth sports organization creates some sort of an entrepreneurship class, some sort of a training in which the parents are involved, in which we get the local businesses involved, in which we literally pay someone like myself to come in and teach these kids how to be entrepreneurs. Understand, Usain Bolt signed a pro contract when he was I want to say it was either 15 or 16 years old. 15 or 16 years old, he signs a pro contract and he's eligible to make money. Do you understand how young that actually is and how much now he has to trust all these people? Everyone's kind of in his pocket. You know, everyone's in the way of him and the money and figuring out ways to come up and steal, kind of put their hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, right? So this is why, again, I recommend it. I strongly recommend it. There's a few books that I strongly recommend you go get a copy. I'll close you out with this. On my podcast, if you're listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, once you hit the follow button, there's a book that's out that's titled Athlete to Entrepreneur. It was facilitated by a teammate of mine named Taj Deshawn. And on the Move Swiftly podcast, in which you may be listening to this on, I've had around 5 to 6 different authors from that very book. All right, so I strongly recommend you get that. Make sure you get a copy of that Six-Figure Athlete, all which is available on makeyourmove.com, along with a ton of other things. You can listen to my podcast on that one website, but I strongly recommend it because the tragedy in the situation, the heartbreaking situation that has occurred with Usain Bolt and his team, we as adults have an obligation to our young athletes not to make them aware, to not let this story die down, to teach them, look, if you're going to commit yourself to the athletic world, if you're going to commit yourself to being involved in and you're going to excel as an athlete, you have got to learn how to manage your money. You got to learn how to pay attention to your money. One of the big gems I picked up at Dre when it comes to the conference I went to this weekend, Dre goes, you got to pay attention to your numbers. You got to pay attention to your numbers and make sure they grow. You can't just throw 12 million in a situation and just say, okay, you guys deal with that. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. You got to make sure that 12 million, figure out how that 12 million can become 120 million over time. You got to make sure it's being put to work. You got to put your money to work. Put your money to work, all right? Like I said, makeyourmove.com is where I dive into a lot of this stuff. It's a one-stop shop for all of your teamwork and your teamwork and self-development needs. Aswand Cruickshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.